Hello and good evening. Hello, Manish. How you been today?
Very good, Jeet. How are you? What's happening?
A- Absolutely good. To all our viewers today, hello and welcome back to episode number 12 of Pureblu Spotlight. Now, for those who are joining us for the first time, Manish and me are the founders of Pureblu, and Spotlight is a 30-minute session held every month where we would like to share our thoughts on three guiding pillars of Pureblu, which we call as RAP. That's reliability, accountability, and productivity. So at PureBlue, we have two product lines. One is our SaaS platform, an easy to use software for air conditioning service providers to manage their customers, field resources, the trouble tickets, and the life cycle of the air conditioning and refrigeration systems. Our second product is a smart AMC, where multi-city, multi-location, all kinds of brands of air conditioning systems are managed as a one-stop solution under annual maintenance contracts. Uh, when you take the smart AMC, you also get an IoT device free of cost. This device sends you daily reports on your energy consumption. Now you remember 70% of your energy consumption from air conditioners, and a well-maintained air conditioning system will always save close to about 20% of this energy. So today on episode number 12, we're going to talk about customer data and how we capture data and what can be done with this data. What do you say, Manish?
Definitely. But before we get to it, wait a minute. We have done 12 episodes. That means we've been doing this now for a year.
That's right.
That is crazy.
This is
So, when we first talked about doing this, we were like, oh my gosh, are we going to have enough topics to discuss it? And, can you imagine we've already done 12 episodes, one a month, and we still have a whole list of other topics that we've received from viewers. And so this is only the beginning. And, even I'm kind of quite proud that we've done 12 episodes. So we've consistently done one a month. So I think it's a great achievement,
true.
and I think it shows you that there's a lot of interest, and there is something in this space that it's just not like, oh hey, you're just cooling and you're air conditioning and all of that, but there's just so much more around it. And I think that's one of the discussion topics we want to talk about today is, when we talk about air conditioning, everybody thinks it's just one thing, it's just cooling, but there's so much more to it, and that's what we're trying to bring a lot of the technology into it. So when you think about air conditioning, and from your viewpoint, because I look at it more from the technology perspective, you send me the data and I will process it. But in your mind, Ajit, what is the kind of data you think we can start capturing from air conditioning equipment? What are some of the things we can do?
So here's this, Manish. Like air conditioning systems are typically mechanical products, and like all such products are exposed to breakdowns, wear and tear, and a mechanical product requires regular maintenance. That and these maintenance is required primarily to reduce the breakdowns and also to ensure the efficiency of these products. And when these machines are repaired, you can capture the history of the machine, right from the breakdown, which part has been replaced, what was the condition it failed under, and what was the performance of the machine of that specific part before the part was replaced, after the part was replaced, what was the kind of performance, how was it when it was designed originally, and how over a period of time that performance of the machine has been changed. And if a service provider is connected to an organized platform, he can capture these details on the go. Every time a technician submits a service report, the data can be updated real time to the specific equipment. And over the years, you will have the complete history of the life cycle of that product or of that equipment. Now, these equipments could be large chillers, VRF systems, or for that matter, even a small air conditioner that you would use in your house. And moreover, tomorrow's products are going to be Wi-Fi enabled, or if they're not, an IoT enabled machine can generate energy consumption and patterns of equipment performance in various conditions. Now, this is a wealth of data that can be used for the benefit of all the stakeholders, right? From the manufacturer to the service provider to the technician, or for that matter, even the customer. And that's the amount of data that actually can be generated from air conditioning systems. Just not just the life cycle and the breakdown of the products, but also the energy consumption.
Interesting. But so tell me, I mean, you're trying to tell me that all of this data right now, no one is capturing it. I mean, how's it being done today?
Honestly, you know, uh, the current system follows a typical pipeline method. And what it says is the manufacturer makes it, then he sells it to a component manufacturer makes it, sells it to a brand or an OEM, then the OEM sells it to a dealer or an installer, and then a technician who is part of the dealer and installer actually reaches out to the last mile, which is the customer. Now, sometimes customers do some of the data is captured, but it is captured by the service provider or it is captured by the manufacturer, but there is no method to capture of all the equipment, especially in the residential segment, I think, which is the largest. There is absolutely no data that is being captured. Now, even if a service provider is organized, what is he doing? He's either capturing some data manually, then updating it in some Excel, or he's probably got some data management software which is capturing that data. Then this data is sometimes shared by the service provider to the manufacturer, primarily when he has to collect some money for the work that has been done. So it is only need based. Sometimes it's garbage in, garbage out data collected. This data is not validated, it's not labeled, and it's done only to complete a process. So, in fact, today, if a customer asks for a history of his equipment, it's very rare that he can get an authentic, reliable data at a very short notice. And the problem is, everyone is working in silos with their own method of processes and priorities. And hence, currently, you don't have a mechanism of centralized data of the various air conditioning systems, which is expensive to buy, expensive to maintain, and consume 70% of your energy of any facility. So to answer your question, Manish, it's fully broken. There is no organized way to capture these data.
Well, not surprising, I guess. I mean, I think that's one of the issues with when we talk about, big data, machine learning, all these, different terms. The reality is every industry is probably going through this transformation where people now realize that there is something in that data, but we need to start capturing it. So, assuming we start capturing all of this data, how do you think a service provider would benefit from all of this data?
A service provider is the closest. He's in the last mile connectivity with the customer, and he's the closest to the machine or the equipment. Now, a service provider can use this data to understand what is the impact of his AMC. Is it truly profitable, or is there a machine that's draining his profitability? Now, why this is important is, see, an AMC business is like an insurance business. You take money, and if you have a very large base of AMCs, you take a small premium. And then if you have a very large base of machines under your AMC, you ensure that the risk is amortized over all these number of machines. And if there is a machine that is really lived its life out, you don't want to bring it into that AMC. I mean, it's like a medical test that you do when you take a life insurance also, or a general insurance also. There is a validation that is done that this is not risky, or this is not doomed to fail kind of stuff. And that's exactly what happens in the AMC business. Today, there is no method to understand that. And that's where some of these AMCs go for a toss. And service providers can increase their profitability and also say that, hey, listen, this machine should not come into my services ecosystem. It's like continuously tracking the condition and the risk assessment of the machine as it keeps running and as it keeps aging. Now, this also helps the service provider with leads for new sales and approach customers with valid, reliable data. And what could be potential, and that could be a potential ROI by replacing the equipment and thereby reducing energy consumptions and breakdowns. What it really does is actually, today you replace an air conditioner when it stops cooling. All right. And very few people understand the concept of that. It's not only about cooling, it's also about the cost of cooling. Now, as a customer, you are always wondering, if it's working fine, why should I replace it? And you don't want to go to the service provider because now you think that he's trying to oversell you. But when you see the data that, listen, hey, this machine is 12 years and it's consuming so much of power over the 12 years, see how it was in the first month and see what's happened to it after 10 years, you can calculate the ROI and say that, hey, it just makes sense for me to buy a new machine. Now that's lead generation for a service provider and bringing value to a customer. And I think a service provider stands to benefit a lot from analyzing this customer data. And I think that's what is being lost out today.
No, it makes sense. No, I think you're actually right. That's the issue is, that age old, verbiage where they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I think that is so wrong, because the reality is, it's sort of like, would you, use a computer that's 15 years old today? The answer is there's no way you could use a computer that's 15 years old today. Could you use a cell phone that is 7 years old today? Probably not, because there's so many things that just won't work on it. So I think the problem is with air conditioning, we feel like, hey, it's working, it's fine. But the reality is that could be drawing so much more power, could be using so much more coolant. But the thing is, the reality is there's no way to understand it and quantify it. So I think that's very true on the service provider side, and then giving that data to the consumer. But the question, more importantly though, is if you're gathering all this data, is there a way that the manufacturers can benefit from it? Because that's one of the big things. Is really, it'd be nice if the manufacturers were starting to gather this data. But do you think if all this information is being aggregated, would they benefit from it too?
Big time, Manish. Actually, today the biggest problem is the manufacturer has no access in majority of the cases to the end product which is installed. They just, maybe the high-end ones like a chiller or a VRF which is installed in a very large commercial application, probably they have access to the customer or maybe to some data. But the entire ecosystem, they don't have. Now, imagine if they start getting data of how their product is performing in the market. Now, the same product sold in Mumbai and the same product sold in Delhi, how is it performing? The ambient conditions are different. The same product put in a residential application or the same product put in a commercial application, how is it performing? What happens if it is put in a restaurant where it runs for about 12 hours or 15 hours against a residential which runs about 4 hours, 5 hours, or some place where it is running 24 hours, the same product, how does it perform? There's so many permutation combinations that can come where you can see how the product is performing. And different manufacturers, even if though they put a product together, some of the components that they use are pretty similar. Say the motors, the compressors, you might have thousands of brands, but there are only about 4 or 5 big large manufacturers of compressors of various specifications which are done. So which one is performing better? I mean, if that data is available, can you imagine the manufacturers now know that, listen, if you're selling a product in Mumbai, this component is the best feature, the best in this conditions, because it performs much better. The failure rate is less, the energy consumption is lower. You don't have to go through one size fits all, and you can be, and lesser breakdowns. That can make a huge difference, because you will now have specific products for specific applications or specific conditions, or you might just realize that this component is the best and this is the motor that you should use in this capacity. We don't have these datas right now, or even if the datas are there, we don't capture it, we are unable to analyze them. As I told you, they're all in silos lying all around the place. And if this data is made accessible to the manufacturer, not like a one time, on an ongoing real time data, brand A, brand B, brand C, can they get a comparison of a similar capacity in different applications, different locations? That's one hell of an information. Think of a guy sitting in the factory who's designing the next version of that product. He can use this data to make sure that he's built a better product, he's reduced the failures, and he's able to customize product based on the customers or the region's requirements. He can build USPs around his product, he can increase the sales, and this kind of regular data will always help manufacturers or OEMs build better products. And that's the big takeaway from this data of customers for the manufacturers.
Okay. So, right now we've talked about two things. One is the service provider. Second is around the manufacturer, which you just mentioned. But I think the big missing piece is really around the consumer. How do they really benefit? Because I feel like most consumers are so busy running around, they don't have time. So when we talk about data capture, collecting it, putting it together, giving them information. How does the consumer really benefit from all of this? Or is it just all marketing?
So I have one question to ask you, Manish. You have an air conditioner in the house which says 5 star.
Yeah.
Is it really 5 star? Is it really 5 star?
I have no idea what 5 star is, to be honest with you. I have no idea. I actually don't know what the difference between 1 star and 5 star is when it comes to air conditioning. If you were to tell me hotels, okay, I can understand the difference between a 1 and a 5 star hotel. 4 star and 5 star hotel, a little bit kind of difficult to understand. But air conditioning, I have no idea what that scale is. Really, I don't know.
So how does this work? So I'm just taking a very basic thing, how you can democratize and empower customers just using customer data. Now, you have, like how you have different grading for hotels, the Bureau of Energy Efficiency came up with the star rating policy for air conditioners, like many other electronic products, but they came up for air conditioners too, which means a 5 star air conditioner is better than a 3 star. How is it better? It's better because it consumes lesser energy. That's it. That's all what it means. Of course, there is a math, how much percentage and everything, which is very complex for a customer to understand. Now, today you have the 5 star machine, you look at the label and you make that purchase. It is the faith you have in that label, period. That's it. You are assuming that what that manufacturer has given you is 5 star, because the labeling program today is a self declaration program. That is, if I'm a manufacturer, there are certain rules which the government, the energy efficiency, BEE, has laid out, and I go with these reports. I test them in a kind of a laboratory, which is an NABL certified laboratory, take these reports and I submit it, and I say that, hey, listen, I'm self-declaring this is a 5 star machine. And the BE says that, listen, I'm going to randomly check it, and if I find you at fault, I'm going to penalize you. That's how the whole thing works. Now, for a customer, he is assuming that every piece that has come out is identical, and he's going by that label. Now, let's say even if it is 5 star machine, is it 5 star in the entire cycle? Is it 5 star only in the first year, or within 2 years that 5 star has become a 3 star or a 1 star? You don't know, and that data is not available. Now, don't you think, as a customer who spends lakhs of rupees not only in buying an air conditioner but also running that air conditioner, you should be empowered to know what the energy consumption is? And not very complicated, very simple, which says that, listen, it was X when you bought it, which matches the star rating. And over a period of 1 year, it has come down 30%, 40%, 50% to what the original star rating is, and to what the original power consumption was when you bought it. Now, imagine if consumers are entitled to this data and they have easy access to it by just looking at the phone. It's a game changer. Customers will now enforce and make sure that they get better products. They will hold service providers and manufacturers, hold them to accountability and say that, hey, listen, you promised me this, you got to deliver it to me. Moreover, it will help the customer decide when to change the product. You don't have to wait for a service provider or some math to decide when to change the product. Currently, we don't have a mechanism because it continues to cool well, so I don't want to change the product. However, nobody understands what the cost of cooling is. It's like the electricity bill, right? How much do you analyze how much you paid last year, same month? You just quietly pay for it and you believe that this is what it is. But however, the cost of cooling may have increased five folds from the time you bought the machine. And as of today, as a customer, you cannot make any informed decision. And I think this data can help empower the customer in a very big way. And that they will make sure, they will hold everybody accountable to making a better product and making sure they live up to the promises that they make when they make these products. So I think the customer stands to benefit immensely from this customer data, and making a better product, because 70% of the energy consumption comes from air conditioners. So anything that you do around this is a huge saving. And that's strongly my belief that we can work around it. But Manish, you must also throw some light, with all these kind of customer data that's available, and it's millions of data points from so many places that's coming in. Now, from a technology standpoint, what are the benefits, or what are the kind of technologies that you can apply, where, I was talking about all these stakeholders, service providers, manufacturers, customers. What are the kind of technology applications that you think we can apply to this data? And I know at one point we will do all this in Pureblu. We are actually working to build this entire platform in Pureblu. So you should share with most of our viewers today as to what are the kind of technology that you can deploy around this.
Okay. Well, first let's just kind of do a level set on what Pureblu is. People, think, oh, hey, you're just, kind of automating the industry and creating, a SaaS platform for, for the, service providers. The reality is that's our entryway into actually capturing all of that data, and we definitely have gone in with this idea that data is the key. They say data is the new oil, because now we realize that there is some value in having all of that data. So when we talk about data, there's always these buzzwords. People talk about AI, which stands for artificial intelligence. People talk about machine learning, all of these buzzwords. And when you throw those buzzwords out, then people just give you money to kind of fund your company. But there's something in it. There's a reason why. And really, let me just break it down. What machine learning means is when you are looking at all of this data that's coming in, the computer kind of uses its own built-in algorithms to kind of come up with the solution. And that's what it is. Now, will it come up with a solution on day one? And will it come up with the right solution right away? No, but that's part of the whole progress of it learning, and that's what we're trying to do. So it's very easy to, I'll give you an example that probably has happened previously before is, let's say manufacturer X has sold 1,000 split ACs in Bombay, and each of them are 1.5 tons. It's the same model, okay? And they know that they've sold 1,000 units in a certain part of Bombay, and they just kind of track it. And what I mean by track is they'll probably look at it from a warranty perspective, a warranty claim. And then they'll probably look at it after a while saying, hey, we had sold 1,000 units into this one specific area. And surprisingly, we had a defect or some sort of claim of around 2 to 3% on a specific unit, on that unit. So now they'll look at it because they kind of look at it from selling it, and then what they can kind of take the model number and serial number and find out that there was a claim on it. And that's very easy to do because it's very simple. But now the thing is, now imagine that machine now is connected via Wi-Fi, or let's say 4G or a 5G network that's coming out soon, and it's sending data every minute. And just not one piece of data. Now, it could just be the energy usage, could be the temperature, but let's say it's throwing out 10 to 15 pieces of data every minute. Now, if that data is coming in every minute, it becomes very difficult for someone to kind of quickly look at it in an Excel sheet and make an assumption. And that's really what they mean by machine learning, is you take all of this information, throw it into the machine, use a couple what they call classifier engines, and then you come up with a solution. And that's really what we're trying to get to. And the real big thing that's happening in our industry is what they call edge processing. So part of it is, what ends up happening is if you put a device at the cloud, let's say at the end, it's an IoT device, and it sends data to the cloud. Then you do all the processing in the cloud, and then you send the information back to the machine, or you send it to an admin staff. The idea is, why don't we process that information at the edge? So any sort of trigger. So an example would be if the machine, is, and if a normal machine is using X amount of power in an hour, and all of a sudden now it's using 2X, you should trigger an alert. And then basically that all happens locally, trigger the alert, and then you can send a technician to kind of look at it. Right now, what ends up happening is that all of that data is being sent into the cloud, and then we process it, we look at it, and then we can send a trigger. So edge processing is really the next big thing. And then now imagine, like I just gave you one sample data point. Now imagine that is happening on 100 pieces of data every minute. If it's happening locally, then it's great. But I still believe, my personal opinion, it'll be a hybrid approach. Any sort of trigger will happen locally, but the data still needs to be sent into the cloud so we can aggregate it with all the other machines out there. And that's really what I think is going to happen. And so as we kind of continue with this, progress of building out the Pureblu platform, our whole intent is really to take a look at the data and come up with some sort of informed decision. And that is really what we're trying to go for. And for me, I personally feel a lot of that will be driven around if you can somehow tie some sort of economic value to that decision. Like, should I keep my air conditioning on 18 degrees, 20 degrees, 24? What is it should be? It's all a feeling. But if I can show a graph to somebody and say, you know what, this is what it looks like cost wise when you set it at 24, and this is what it looks like when it's set at 18. Now, if there's no noticeable difference between, let's say, 24 and 18 to somebody, then it makes sense for them to set it at 24. I know I personally, when my AC is on and it's on 20, I will notice when it goes down to 19. I can feel it,
That's right.
but a lot of people cannot. So that's what we're trying to get to, is we're trying to give this information at all levels. We discussed three types of levels, right? We talked about the consumer, we talked about the service provider, and we talked about the manufacturer. And each one of these three have different reasons for why they want the data and getting that aggregated information. And that's really what we're trying to do. And as I say, it's the proverbial needle in a haystack with all this data. And the reason why it's happening now in this industry and every other industry is because literally 10 to 15 years ago, two things were happening. One is it was very painful from a cost perspective to keep on keeping the data, on some sort of cloud hard drive or server. So server costs were expensive, cloud drives were expensive. So that was one. Two, there was no way to really look at the data. Artificial intelligence has come a long way from where it was many years ago to where it is today with machine learning. So I think those two things are the key drivers on why everyone is now looking at, applying all these new algorithms to the data, and the HVAC industry is no different. And Pureblu,
Absolutely.
in that regard is definitely going down that path.
Yeah. When you keep telling me about how a real-time data can change behavior, it reminds me of the sugar patch that you keep putting you on, and then how it actually triggers a dietary change that happens because you suddenly realize that you got a spike in your sugar levels of what you ate, and you suddenly decide to make a change. So it's real time. You eat something, within 2 hours you get a spike, and you realize, oh my god, I shouldn't have eaten this. That's how my body is reacting. And then you suddenly bring in a quick change, a behavioral change, and you say that, okay, I'm going to throw it. And that's exactly what's going to happen with these air conditioning systems. And it's worth it, right? Because it's energy consumption and you want to save energy. It's a scarce uh, there's a scarcity of energy, and it's expensive. And I think when you talk from a sustainability perspective, it's worth investing the time and effort and money behind it. What do you say?
No, definitely. I mean, when we say, what do you call it? Fossil fuels, all these are scared cities. We want to help the environment. I agree, that's a great thing, but I really feel the minute you tie some sort of economic value to it, people will change their behavior, and it's everywhere around us, right? You get a speeding ticket. People can drive fast. Okay, drive fast, but then you'll get a speeding ticket. The minute people know that there is some sort of economic, disincentive, then it will change your behavior. And that's the same thing I think will happen in the HVAC industry as well. The minute we can kind of tie a value to it, then it'll change. It's very easy to say, yeah, let's be green. It's all about the environment. That is definitely there. But I think when people see it, then they're like, oh my gosh. And that's really actually what happened this summer in the US. Gas prices, petrol prices were through the roof, the highest ever. And I actually know friends are like, hey, you know what? Maybe let's just all get together and just meet in a central location, and let's all drive somewhere together as one instead of taking three separate cars. So even that is happening because the minute they know that they have to pay, a much double the price for petrol, it changes their thought process.
Amazing. Too good.
Yeah.
Well, that's the time that we have for today. We are into our 30 minutes, the last minute. So thank you very much, everybody who's been viewing us and who's been writing to us, or to all those people who would watch us later. Do write to us. Tell us about what you would like to hear from us on the HVAC space or on the technology around the HVAC space. And before we close, I like to make a hard sell as usual. So if you are in the HVAC services business, you should contact us and take a demo of our product, a cloud-based system, our software for managing for managing the air conditioning services. You can see the number and the email ID on the screen right now. Please do write to us. We'll be happy to give you a demo. Well, all of us use all of us use air conditioners, and energy, 70% of your energy consumptions come from air conditioners. You can bring that down with proper maintenance. And if you're looking at smart AMC to bring down your energy consumption, that's the number on the screen. Call us. We'll be happy to send in our technicians, our engineers who will evaluate those air conditioners and take it into air conditioning maintenance. And that could help you bring down the cost of air conditioners. Remember, when you buy a smart AMC from us, you get a free IoT device that will keep telling you what is your energy consumption. So all that behavioral change that we've been talking about, well, you can get it going immediately. That's what we have. So that's all the time that we have for today. So fun talking to you about this. This is a super topic that Manish and me keep talking all about. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next month with another topic that you have asked us to speak about. So thanks a lot, Manish. Thank you very much.
Take care. Take care, everyone. Till the next time.
So till the next time. See you guys. Bye.